Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Woodstock, Georgia, it's time for Cherokee Business Radio. Now, here's your host.
Welcome back to Cherokee Business Radio. I'm your host and professional EOS implementer, Joshua Kornitsky. I've got a fantastic guest here in the studio with me today. But before I begin, let me tell you that today's episode is brought to you in part by our community partner program, the Business Radio X Main Street Warriors, defending capitalism, promoting small business, and supporting our local community. For more information, please go to mainstreetwarriors.org. And a special note of thanks to our title sponsor for the Cherokee chapter of Main Street Warriors, Diesel David Inc. Please go check them out at dieseldavid.com. Well, I have to say that of the interviews that I've done since I've started here at Business Radio X, this one has me the most excited. My guest today is Trevor Smith. He is the founder and CEO of Atomic-6, a company creating advanced composite materials that make defense and aerospace equipment lighter, stronger, and more resilient. He's a two-time founder of different companies with more than a decade of experience in technology and innovation. Trevor has led Atomic-6 from concept to securing more than a dozen contracts with the Department of Defense, the Air Force, the Space Force, NASA, and commercial customers. It's really incredible. The boundaries of what is possible with advanced materials, he has pushed that to its limits. And the products that are really going to be in orbit one day and maybe even on the surface of the moon. With over $3 billion in pipeline, the future must look pretty bright. Welcome, Trevor Smith. It's just a pleasure to have you here.
Nice to be here, Josh. As I mentioned, I've done one other Business Radio X interview. I think it was 11 years ago or something. Very different capacity.
Okay.
As a commercial real estate broker.
Well, and I'm going to ask you about that, but first I wanted to start with just sort of learning a little bit about your background and your history, and tell us how you got to first commercial real estate and then ultimately making this insane jump into a place that most of us dream of.
So I went to the University of Mississippi, or Ole Miss, as they say, and got a degree in commercial real estate and moved to Atlanta in 2010.
Okay.
And was a commercial real estate broker working on the tenant or the buy side of the transaction. So offices, warehouses, that kind of thing. Had success in it. Just was kind of bored, right? Didn't really feel like I was building anything that had lasting, value to it. No offense to my real estate buddies.
No,
love you guys. Miss you.
Because they're in a niche that's all unto itself. But it wasn't your niche.
Correct. I've had a few people ask me, say, Trevor, are you competitive? And my response is no, but I just like playing games where I don't have anybody else competition. Like, I just like to play a game where I'm the only person that can win.
I understand. Sort of your own version of single player.
Yeah,
there
exactly. Yeah. Eliminating the competition from the beginning.
So was there an impetus that led you from commercial real estate to composite materials, because those are not two fields one would typically find adjacent?
Yeah. As a lot of good stories start, it was over a cigar and a adult beverage.
Nice.
Met my co-founder and needed a warehouse, and so we got connected there. And then he sold his company to actually it was the companies here in Georgia. They went out of business, unfortunately, but they were building composite wheels, so single piece carbon fiber wheels for the automotive racing segment.
Okay.
And if you knew my background a little bit, I grew up racing motorcycles, and I love all things that go fast.
Okay.
And so I met the wheel company, and they're like, "Wow, you seem like a really good sales guy. Would you like to come sell wheels for us?" And I'm going, well, that sounds way more fun than commercial real estate.
Sure.
Yeah. So wind down the real estate business. And it was the day before my wedding. We're packing up. And I get a phone call.
Surprise, honey.
Yeah. I get a phone call. We had been prepping for this opportunity. The CEO had to step down, and he says, "Hey, I can't give you the job." So, sideswiped. Rug gets pulled out from underneath you, right? As you're packing up for the wedding. And I'm going, sweetie, I'm going to have to do something different, I think. But that got me exposed to, composites, and I couldn't get it out of my head. And so, stayed in touch with Blake, my co-founder, and I said, I think there's something here, and that something is like, how do we manufacture high performance composites? Not necessarily automotive level manufacturing, but more in that direction, right? So how do we bring that high performance ability and put modular, productized, productionized scale into composites? Because historically, it's almost more of an art than a science.
Well, and as most of the guys of my generation, right, space has always been a passion for us. And yeah, everything's in a clean room and everything is a one-off, a single build that was machined out of a single piece of titanium.
Yeah.
Right. It only cost $1 million and took 16 months.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how many people use clean rooms and they don't really need to.
Fair enough.
Go watch a SpaceX launch and see all the debris that comes out when they release the booster stage.
It's all going to burn up anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need a clean room for everything. Sorry, OSHA. So I said, I'm kind of bored with this real estate thing. I got all excited about composites, and I kind of want to get into it. And so Blake and the wheel company had parted ways, and I said, I think there's something here. Let me run with it. And so April 1st of 2018, not an April Fool's joke, I started a startup to fund my other startup.
Okay.
What's this?
That's the most entrepreneurial thing you could do.
Yeah. I mean, what's the 90+% of all startups fail or something
within the first 5 years.
Yeah. So let's stack that. Let's put one on top of the other.
It's a multiplier.
Yeah. And my wife, God bless her, she was like, okay, so not risky at all. This is great. Right.
Your new wife.
Yeah. My brand new wife. Right. I love you, sweetie. And so I said, I really want to do this. I can turn this into a business. And so I started a commercial LED lighting company. Okay. So I didn't know anything about lights, but my real estate background was all finance, and LED lighting at the time of 2018 is really about what's the ROI, what's the return on investment.
Right. And that was the beginning of the boom of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was actually the sweet spot. Fortunately, timing, as they say, is everything. Yep. And now it's much harder to kind of make a good living in lighting, but I made more in lights than I did in real estate.
That's crazy.
So the idea, it was crazy. The idea was, I'm going to take every dollar that we make on the lighting business, and I will put it into research and development for Atomic-6 to get it to a point where we are fundable. We are backable by venture capital, or somebody will give us some money because we think we know what we're doing.
Right.
So 3 years did that. Fortunately, my first investor, as I call her, true co-founder, my wife, paid the bills at the house while I was off spending a lot of money on trying to get Atomic-6 off the ground.
And so when you started Atomic-6, were you already you were obviously in the space of composite, because that you had shared was your kind of, you'd gotten excited about that. Were you looking towards space, or were you just looking towards building or fabricating something out of composite?
Trying to find customer fit.
Okay.
And so the initial idea, the very first meeting we had was with Mickey Truck Bodies. They're the largest truck body manufacturer in North America. They're out of North Carolina.
Okay.
And we're like, well, if we can, the I-beams, it's a steel I-beam that runs.
I do.
Right? So we're like, well, if we can lightweight those, we could increase payload and efficiency, right? They can haul more, get better miles per gallon, all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
So we pitch Mickey Truck Bodies and we say, hey, we have this idea. We're going to be consultants for you, and we're going to show you how to build this so you own the process and you can use these composites in your truck bodies. We were politely laughed out of the meeting because it was like, hey, go spend $10 million to get this idea off the ground that we have not proven whatsoever. So quickly pivoted into, we got to go build this ourselves. Right.
Sure. And did you?
Yes. Yes, we now for sure. So truck bodies, and then we're like, okay, well, what else could we get into? Auto haulers. So that was our very first conference we sponsored, was a auto hauler, like trucking, right? So they take cars and they haul them down the road. And these cars are getting heavier and heavier because of the electrification of these cars.
Yep.
So you'll see a trailer. Typically, you will not see it, what's called cubing out before they weigh out, meaning they've got all their capacity filled and they're still not hitting their road weight limit. Right. So these cars are getting heavier and they can't fill their capacity because they're hitting that weight limit on the road.
And it's funny because it used to be the steel in the cars that made them weigh so much. Now the steel is gone and it's batteries.
Yeah. So we looked at doing some parts there, and ultimately it's like, okay, same kind of story, highly regulated industry. It was really tough to break into.
Sure.
So We did that. And the last one before we get into defense, we looked at an even highlier, that's not a word, more regulated industry, which was rail cars. So we got connected with Trinity Rail, largest rail car manufacturer in North America.
That's a trivia question.
Yeah. And they make a lot of rail cars. So the truck set, which is the piece that holds the wheels onto the rail, is one of the heaviest pieces, about 7,000-ish pounds.
Wow.
So if you could cut that weight in half,
make a dramatic difference on fuel and time.
Dramatic difference. And so we looked at the ROI. It's 2 years on a 50-year product. Like absolute no-brainer, right? Well, the problem was our competitors were all established in the early 1800s, right? The truck set builder,
yeah.
right?
And my brain had to catch up. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense because they've been building it literally since the turn of the century. And the last century.
And the rail industry is highly regulated, right? So like if you have a derailment, it can almost be a domestic terrorist kind of situation. So it's very regulated industry.
Sure.
Quickly found out that was going to be a long, tough hill to climb. So moving into some real traction, we got an opportunity with Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. You familiar with Skunk Works?
I am, but just for anyone listening.
They've built some very unique aircraft, including the SR-71 Blackbird, the fastest aircraft known to humans on the unclassified side. For those,
I'm not going to ask follow-up.
Well, I don't have a clearance, so I can't tell you on the class side. But yeah, they built some really unique aircraft, and so they're always trying to push the boundaries of performance for aerospace and defense.
Sure.
And I said, we have this. I describe it as a unique muffin pan. So your audience should know what a muffin pan is.
I certainly hope so.
I hope so. But it's a mold, right? In essence, it's a mold. And so we have a unique mold that allows us to manipulate any composite material set towards its theoretical limit. So if you have a certain fiber, carbon fiber or resin, it doesn't have to be carbon fiber, but any fiber, any resin set, there is a theoretical limit for that material set.
Okay.
So we were given the opportunity to build a flat panel, just, kind of look like a coaster, right? Just a flat carbon fiber panel. And let's see how close to theoretical limit we can get. So the high water mark at the time, and I presented at Oak Ridge National Lab, was 80 or 85% of the theoretical limit. Ours was 98%.
Wow.
So we were almost perfect. And that first panel was built just by me. Start to finish, prep the tool, mix the resin. I watched YouTube for 3 hours to learn how to run an autoclave, which is an autoclave is the oven that we use. It's a pressurized vessel. Very dangerous.
It's an easy bake oven for scientists.
Also a bomb if you use it wrong, because actually they've had them blow up and people have died.
Well, and we certainly don't want to make fun of that, but
yeah,
it's obviously
it's a dangerous
temperature pressurized device.
It's a dangerous environment. But the fact that myself, not an engineer or anything like that, I just used the recipe. My co-founder said, "Look, here's how you should make this," because he's got a full-time day job, and I was like, "I'll make this thing happen." So we did the panel, got some really intriguing results, and they said, "Can you do this again?" So made another panel, got even better results.
Wow!
And so that's when I knew we had something. I didn't know what it was, other than we had this unique manufacturing process. So now we have to go figure out where to put that.
Well, so where do you seek that guidance from?
What do you mean?
For where do we take?
Sure.
We've got this proof of concept that we can do this. Where did you go?
Money. You follow the money trail, man.
Okay.
Right. So who or what needs that extra bump in performance, 10, 15, 20%? It's the extreme and demanding environments.
Sure.
Right. So if you look at the early days of where we were going, which was trying to increase payload, increase capacity, increase range, all those things are needed in extreme environments in the aerospace and defense world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we submitted our first SBIR proposal, Small Business Innovation Research, which is the way the Department of War, DOD, uses to invest in new technologies to develop into something that they can use. And ideally, it is what's called true dual use technology, meaning it's a commercial version and a military version, but you can use the same thing for both.
Okay, so double the value out of the investment.
Well,
in theory.
the government, sure, but the government wants to see products that can stand up on their own on the commercial side, right? Because if you can stand up a product on the commercial side, you're buying down the risk and the cost for the government. A great example, I don't know how you feel about guns, but guns are a great example of that, right? So like if there was no commercial market for, guns,
Right.
a military gun would cost a lot more.
Right.
Right.
But because it's spreading both the risk and the cost.
Correct.
Across.
Right. You're amortizing the cost of that product. So you look for dual use things. The very first contract was it's called a phase 1 proposal. They have phase 1, 2, 3, and there's some things in between. So that's $75,000 from the United States Space Force.
Okay.
So that very first contract was to develop a deployable mast for space. So I've got a little hardware I can show you here.
Absolutely.
So this is a deployable mast. So it flattens like this.
And it looks like it's made out of very thin paper.
9/1000 of an inch thick.
Oh.
About as thick as a human hair. So this mast will roll up flat, kind of like a tape measure. And I have this here. So you can roll it up and you can deploy it out. For the audience, the cracking is the carbon fiber that I'm rolling out. But you can deploy it out like this. So this is a support structure for systems in space.
And because you're in space and you're dealing with greatly reduced gravity, I imagine that the strength is exponentially more valuable there because you're not fighting against, you are in orbit, but you're not fighting Earth gravity with it.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was our very first foray into the defense world.
And if it's not asking a question you can't discuss, do you know if that has been used in space?
Well, it's our product, so not yet.
Okay.
We have first flight, February 1 of 2026. So we're coming up on first flight.
Okay.
Very excited about that. We cannot disclose the customer.
Of course.
Some, you like to disclose it, but some missions you can't disclose the customer. So Vandenberg Space Force Base is out of California, and we'll be launching that. I think it's on a Falcon 9 in Feb 1 of 2026.
That's absolutely amazing. Thank you for bringing that in, because when you walked in with it, I wasn't really sure what it was, and it's kind of hard to believe that. What is that? About a meter long, about over 3 feet.
This is my little travel companion here. We've built hundreds of feet of these deployable masts, and that's one component of what the Space Force ultimately wanted to see in a system, which is a deployable solar array. So you know what solar panels are here on
Absolutely.
Earth, right? So solar panels in space look a little different. There's lots of radiation they have to overcome. You have off-gassing in the material systems. Off-gassing is bad because it can get on cameras and change trajectories and all kinds of nastiness. So you need to build the systems where they are made for space, right? And you have thermal environments that are really unique. You're going to plus 80 degrees C to minus 80 degrees C. I don't even know the Fahrenheit, but it's hot. It's really hot and really cold. People think of space as really cold. It actually gets really hot too.
If you're in view of the sun, you're going to have a bad day without the sun.
Exactly.
So now, is that ultimately, I on your website, I did some reading. Is that the Lightwing product?
Correct. It's called Lightwing.
So it's lighter, stronger, and it's a smarter solar array. What do you mean by smarter?
Yeah. So the big unlock that really kicked things off, I'm looking at your door here. So you've got some metal hinges, right?
Right.
So those metal hinges look very similar to how solar panels are deployed today in space.
Okay.
So I'll hold up an example of one of our panels here. This is a 9/1000 of an inch back sheet. We call it a back sheet.
But there's no hinges.
There's no hinges on this. But you put your solar cells on the back sheet, and historically those metal hinges sit right on the edge of this panel. So those hinges have what's called biaxial loading, meaning they can bend in two different directions.
Okay.
Metal doesn't do well in the really cold of space, right? So if you've got metal that can bend in two different directions, it can be problematic for solar arrays. The number one reason for infant mortality on satellites, infant mortality meaning they die right after launch.
Gotcha.
Sorry,
okay.
Sorry,
a little confused. I was scratching my head on that one.
You've launched a satellite and
it dies.
Day zero, it is not functional. The number one reason is for failed solar array deployment.
Wow. So it's actually a gigantic potential problem for a very expensive investment of a satellite.
I'll give you a perfect example. Viasat, who offers a lot of satellite communications,
right?
They had an insurance claim last year for $450 million because of a failed solar array deployment.
Wow.
Yeah. So trying to fix that, right? We're trying to fix that. Our hinge looks a little different than that metal door hinge you have here. So this is a memory-shaped composite hinge, and I'll demonstrate with you here. So it's cured in the stowed position. So you can imagine the solar back sheets are on each side.
Right.
And as the system deploys out, and we'll show a video off our website on this, but as it deploys out, this hinge actually bends and pulls tension on these back sheets. So it only wants to go in one direction. It just wants to, it can't lock up, right?
Okay.
So if I let go, it just goes back to the original position.
To its normal state.
So you've eliminated hundreds of points of failure, single failure points in the system because it can't fail.
Well, and doesn't it also reduce the overall weight of what you're sending to space?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't bring it with me, but you've got one here. You can imagine a metal door hinge with something that is, I mean, I don't even know the weight, but it's very lightweight. You can hear.
Yeah, it basically weighs nothing.
Like a piece of paper.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you look at solar arrays, the key metric, one of the key metrics you look at is watts per kilogram, right? So how much power to how much mass. So today, competitors offer anywhere from 30 watts per kilo to maybe 100 to 120 watts per kilo.
And is that traditional metal hinged?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the deployment mechanisms are also, you know what a scissor lift looks like?
Mm-hmm.
The fancy word for that is a pantograph.
Okay.
So, right, they're deploying out like a scissor lift. It's all metal. Same issues. They lock up. They have hundreds of little bolts in them. And
all of them are potential points of failure. We've eliminated all that with this deployable mast and hinge. So you've gotten rid of all these metal connection points that could be a failure, and you get rid of all the weight. Right, which means it costs less to send up and to make.
And to keep running and all the other things. So the watts per kilo on our system, if you look at even a small system, a 2 kilowatt or 2,000 watt system, we're pushing 200 watts per kilogram. So to back up 30 to 100 watts per kilo competitor, we're pushing 200 watts per kilo.
And is the limitation there simply the solar technology, I presume? That as that improves because of the improved weight offering that you have, or the lessened weight, that can even go more.
Yeah, so it gets even sweeter. So that 200 watts per kilo, if you use what's called silicon cells, those are sort of lower efficiency. They're not the highest efficiency cells. If you used high efficiency called triple junction, gallium arsenide is typically the material in it, multi-junction cells, those are like double the efficiency.
Right.
And so our watts per kilo goes even higher than 200 when you use those higher efficiency cells. So we are agnostic. We can use any type of cell, which allows us to be able to service any type of mission.
Wow.
Right. So you could have a 10-year mission in what's called geosynchronous orbit, or GEO.
Right.
That's going to have a lot of radiation because it's 10 years and it's a long mission. You would typically go for a triple junction, multi-junction type cell, high efficiency, because it's good at not degrading in the radiation. But if you need a 2-year mission in low Earth orbit, or LEO, we can use very cheap cells. So we're not locked into the solar cell, and we can adapt to the customer's mission set.
And I presume that that's something they're going to specify anyhow.
Well, what they typically would specify is an end-of-life wattage requirement.
Okay. So
right?
that
So
when the mission's complete.
Hey, we typically will quote a BOL, beginning of life, and an EOL, end of life wattage, right? But you have to design for the constraint, which is the end of life. So what's the minimum amount of power you have to have at the end of the mission? So you take that into account, and we will work with our solar cell partners to find the right fit for that mission set.
Well, and this just sort of occurred to me, right? If the measure is watts per kilo, because of the weight differential of what Lightwing is, a kilo of Lightwing is going to be considerably, you'll have a lot more potential material than you would in a traditional solar cell.
Yeah, let's say, just for round numbers, you are setting aside, 100 kilograms for your solar array, right? So 100 kilograms for your solar array, we can give you 4 times more power just on that mass.
And that's what I'm realizing is it's not just about weight and cost savings. It's actually also about efficiency.
And we have a thing called ConOps usually on the defense side, but ConOps stands for concept of operations.
Okay.
So when you have this, and the thing that we are touting even more than just the watts per kilo is this retract and redeploy capability. That does not exist today outside of one system on the ISS.
So basically, you when you launch a satellite that has panels, you push them out and you're all done.
Yeah, it's a single deployment, right? So space is an ever-changing environment. Right? You have debris floating around there, and you've got maybe you have a high thrust capability with your satellite. High thrust meaning high horsepower for car terms, right? You got to go somewhere really fast. These new engines can have a high thrust capability, ripping off the existing solar rays because of the inertia that they cause. Well, if you have a system that you can retract and lock back down, press the gas pedal and then redeploy.
Right.
If you want to land on an asteroid or a celestial body, bring the arrays in, do your landing, and then redeploy.
And that just doesn't exist today.
No, on the unclassified side, I can't speak to the class, but yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, I'll stop saying that disclaimer.
Well, so you touched on something else, and it lets me segue to the next thing I wanted to ask about. So I checked just with NASA, and NASA says that...
Oh, you called NASA?
I did.
Okay.
I went to they have a website.
Oh, okay.
And according to NASA's website, let me clarify, there are approximately 25,000 objects larger than 10 centimeters known to exist in Earth orbit.
Those aren't the ones you need to be worried about. Do you know why?
Tell me why.
Because they can track them, right? Because if you can see it, and this happens all the time on the International Space Station, they'll make maneuvers to go around that bigger debris.
Okay.
You cannot track 3 millimeters or less, which constitutes about 92% of all debris in LEO. You're in the millions of pieces of debris. Think a tiny speck of paint.
Which brings me to so you've now got your retractable mast. I've got the ability to go land on the asteroid and come back, but how do I protect it from not getting smashed while it's sitting in orbit?
Well, yeah, as I say, you need both power and protection.
Right.
We have a second product for space. We call it Space Armor. I'm going to let you guess what it does.
I'm guessing it's some form of protection. and Trevor's got a very interesting piece of white material here.
Yeah.
It says strike face on it.
Strike face. So this, I'll let you hold it.
It's much more dense than I would have expected.
Well, you're stopping a bullet that's moving at Mach 21, 17,000 miles an hour.
That's pretty fast.
At that speed, you could go from Atlanta to LA in 5 minutes. So you see an entry.
Wow.
You see an entry hole in the shield that you're holding.
I do.
But there's no exit. You can look at the backside.
Yeah.
So that was hit with a 3 millimeter aluminum ball. Think like a BB, right? So that BB goes from 0 to Mach 21 in about 16 feet. It's overcoming 1.3 million G forces. And when it hits, and there's a great video on our website,
I'll have to see that.
There's an explosion of plasma that comes out of this thing.
As you're changing the state of matter at that speed.
It's quite wild. Yeah. So this Space Armor is the thinnest, lightest micrometeorite and orbital debris shield that the United States Space Force has ever seen. We built this 2 years ago.
Wow.
And we got a TACFI, Tactical Funding Increase contract, through that SBIR program to get this through flight qualification. So this will be going up next year.
And without asking, obviously, proprietary information, it is some form of composite. It is some layering or some combination of composites it's all composite. I can tell you there is no metal, right? So when you have metal, and if you look at that video on our website, there's a thing called post-impact ejecta, basically debris that gets flung out, right? So we did a side-by-side video, and you can see this on our website, where this shield was impacted at 3 millimeters, and the ejecta that comes out is really just like particulate and gas. Right.
There's no like debris, if you will. NASA has a standard for the same impact. It's a 0.44 inch aluminum. I forget the aluminum, but 0.4 inch thick aluminum monolithic block.
Okay.
All right. Just a block of metal. So it gets hit, and technically it has stopped the projectile. But what you see happen in the video is thousands of more pieces of metal get flung out
into space,
both in the front side, the strike face, and the back side.
Right.
So while there was no penetration, the shock wave from the impact delaminated the metal on the backside, causing metal to go back towards whatever your spacecraft is. I would not want to stand behind that.
No, and it seems to be ultimately a solution that creates a bigger problem.
Yes. So there's a thing called the Kessler syndrome. Are you familiar with this?
I am not.
Okay. So imagine, two satellites coming at each other and they hit. You've got thousands of pieces of debris. Those debris go and hit another satellite, causing thousands more pieces of debris. So you get this like snowball effect.
An exponential domino game.
Yeah. The gentleman, Don Kessler, he's still alive today. I talked to him about a month ago. It was pretty cool. But yeah, Kessler syndrome is a real concern because as we put more and more satellites up, you will have inherently more and more debris. Right. So until we figure out a good way for debris remediation, garbage cleanup, this is the only way I know, or the Space Force knows, to stop impact debris and not cause additional debris creation, which is kind of crazy.
So is the intended use, remember, I'm not an aeronautical engineer.
Neither am I. So
I know you're not either. Would this be, so if we're talking about a communication satellite,
yep,
would this be around the outer body? Is that, or would it be inside where?
When you see a police officer, they have a chest, a chest protector on, right? Like you want to protect the critical components of the satellite. So that might be your avionics, your fuel tanks, what have you. And this shield particularly is really special. So do you know what a radome is?
I don't.
When you get on a commercial flight, there's a little bubble on top of the fuselage.
Okay.
Right. So that little bubble is a dome that protects the radar system, radome. Right. So it's protecting the comm system for the airplane.
Okay.
We've never had a radome for space.
Really?
Because when you look at how we've historically protected from debris, it's with metallic systems. You cannot pass radio frequency through metal.
Right.
Doesn't work. So our ultimate goal was to build space armor with an RF permeable, radio frequency permeable capability.
So it can stay functional.
So you can protect the comm system, which is arguably the most important thing on the satellite.
Right.
So this one here was the very first one that we have shot and tested and also passed RF through, building the very first radome for space.
That's pretty amazing.
Kind of crazy.
Does it have for really, I mean, both products, I have to think, have terrestrial application as well. Just, I wouldn't hazard to guess, just because of their, in the case of the armor, it's obviously insanely strong, and I have to think there's other things they could do with it.
Well, before I jump there, there's more, as they say. But wait, there's more. We have hit this shield with a thing called directed energy weapons. In short, high power lasers.
Okay.
It is highly resistant to laser weapons, which maybe not for commercial users, but
happens on a battlefield in potentially.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, space is the ultimate battlefield, the ultimate domain, because when you look at the military branches, Navy, Army, the Air Force, they all rely on space for communications,
guidance,
intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, all that stuff. So really, really important. Yeah. But you asked about terrestrial. So I grew up in Mississippi and enjoyed testing things, as I say, as a redneck. I took this down to my local gun range and I said, we stopped a bullet at Mach 21. Right. Surely this thing can stop my 9mm Glock, right? I shot it, went right through. Yeah, you have a confused look on your face.
I do.
So the bullet was moving too slow.
Interesting.
I'll elaborate. When you take a supersonic round, a gun, and shoot it into water, that supersonic round, which is faster than the speed of sound, goes about 1 or 2 feet deep. If you shoot a subsonic round, a slower bullet, it actually will penetrate a lot farther, 10, 12 feet. So imagine like slapping the water with your hand versus slowly inserting your hand into water. You can penetrate deeper.
Right.
So these shields don't actually start working until about Mach 10.
Wow.
And there are no known terrestrial bullets that move that fast.
And let's hope
that I'm aware of.
Let's hope we don't find one either. Okay. Well, that's still an amazing.
But we think there is actually a terrestrial application, and it could be very big. So I don't know if you kept up with the Russia-Ukraine war, but Ukraine lit up a Russian airfield with these sort of kamikaze drones that had small explosives on them. Explosives, when they shoot out projectiles,
right.
detonate, come out around the same velocity as what we see in low Earth orbit. So in low Earth orbit, this was tested, just to give you the right metric, this was tested at 7.2 kilometers per second. Explosives come out around 10 kilometers per second. So we think this actually could be really good for protecting against small explosives.
Wow. That's a great idea to explore.
We think there's a terrestrial application for it. We'll see. We're going to go blow it up and see what happens.
I imagine that may be on your website one day too.
Oh, it'll be a fun video. Yeah.
Yeah. That's absolutely incredible. So help me understand, because you self-admitted you are not an engineer. Is this just natural curiosity that got you as deep in as you are now to the understanding of the product, the first of which you actually made yourself?
Yeah.
How did you, what is the best way to ask this question? How did you get so invested personally, not financially, but in the depth of understanding of the science of what you're dealing with?
I think if there's a topic, and this is just applicable for anybody who wants to learn, right? If there's some topic that you're interested in, especially if you're really interested in it, you can learn very quickly. Like, you soak it up.
Right.
Right. Imagine being in school and you're in class and there's some boring class. You're like, I don't really remember anything from that class, but the teacher, did something very unique and it caught your attention.
Sure. That's the one you remember.
Yeah, it's the one you remember. Exactly. So going back, I love things that go fast and blow up and all that kind of thing. So like for me, I was so excited about this, that learning all the metrics and the numbers and the process was just went right in, right? Just soaked it right up. But on top of that, I have to brag, because I'm not the one that's building this today. I have an incredible team. And my CTO, 40-year veteran in the composites industry, has built thousands and thousands of parts, including hypersonic systems and Airbus commercial aircraft things. And so he's been great. And then we added our chief operating officer about 2 years ago. He's a pretty unique individual, holds a lot of world records.
Okay.
His name's Christian Carpenter. He started out doing propulsion at NASA and then went to Aerojet Rocketdyne, where he set some world's first and Guinness records, including the first 3D printed metal rocket engine for electric propulsion. So
wow.
Electric propulsion, not
so there's not chemical.
You have chemical and electric, and we call it EP, electric propulsion. So he set that record and got a call from Elon Musk. He's kind of a famous guy.
I've heard of it.
So Elon's like, hey, I need a new propulsion system, an EP, electric propulsion system, for this new constellation of satellites that I want to put up. Have you heard of Starlink?
I have.
Essentially, Christian designed the prop that runs all of Starlink.
That's kind of cool.
Pretty cool.
That's that's really quite a team you've put together there.
Yeah.
And I do want to ask about that, if I may, right? Because in addition to all of this incredible science and the literal outer space or near Earth orbit, low and high level, right? And who knows where from there, you still actually lead this company.
They haven't taken the reins from me.
You don't just get to talk about how cool everything is. You still have to run the organization.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges? Because I mean, you're at an intersection of innovation, technology, defense, aerospace. I mean, you're juggling 11 different directions at once. What are some of the challenges that anyone listening today could learn from on that side of the house?
So I think one skill set that I learned even from the real estate days was incentive alignment. And I think it's one of my super skills. And I don't have very many, but that's probably one of them, is incentive alignment. So finding out what you are personally interested in, and then finding out what the other party is, whether it's an employee, a customer, a partner, finding out what incentivizes them to move, and then making sure you can align their incentives with yours. And I have a perfect example of this.
Please.
So we wanted to go build some hypersonic systems, and I'll have to be careful what I say here. Yeah. So Hermeus is a customer of ours. They're here in Atlanta, quite a large company. They're building hypersonic aircraft. And so I'm friends with the co-founder there, Glenn, and I said, Glenn, what do you guys need? Right? What do you need built? What's the hard thing that you haven't figured out yet? Is we need a radome. We need a radome for our hypersonic aircraft. very difficult thing to build because you have to, again, pass that radio frequency through it, but also survive the extreme environment of hypersonic speed.
Right.
So I was like, great, you're not going to pay me 100% to develop this. Let's figure out how to get it funded, aligning some incentives. So I call the Air Force, because they have a number on their website.
Like NASA.
Yeah. No, I called our TPOC, technical point of contact, because we actually had another hypersonic contract we were developing already. So I had a relationship built with them. And I said, hey, would the Air Force be interested in Atomic-6 developing a hypersonic radome specifically for the Hermes aircraft? Yeah. We would love to see that. We're already funding them. Like
right.
we it's got to be built anyway, right? So you're aligning incentives from the Air Force because they want to see it built. I want to get Hermes as a customer, and then Hermes needs it built, but the Air Force is going to bring the money to do it.
That's fantastic.
So we've brought everybody together, aligned incentives, and we have that under contract right now. We're working on it.
That's an incredible example.
So skill set, right? That's one of the skill sets.
And so you've brought together some pretty incredible team members from pretty diverse backgrounds. How do you keep them aligned beyond creative incentive, right? Just that with keeping everybody on the same page.
I think if you look at the products that we're building, specifically on the space side, it's tough to not get excited about it.
I'm excited, and I'm just getting to see them.
It's tough to not get excited. So, I think if you're building a company, and this is applicable to any industry, you need to be focused on what you are excited to do. Money should be a byproduct.
Sure.
But you got to make money too, right? So the thing that you're excited to build, you need to make sure that there's a financial outcome with it. So I think keeping the team focused on, hey, what's our next launch opportunity? Or, hey, can we go put this in an astronaut suit? Which we actually are working on putting space armor in an astronaut suit.
Seems like a good application.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right? Commander Chris Hadfield is on our board, and he's like, this needs to be in the astronaut suits.
Particularly, for a guy who's been out in space literally, I imagine he'd be very interested in having something that'll protect him from a hypersonic.
Actually, it's hypervelocity, so it's even faster than hypersonic.
I'll need a scale next time we talk.
Yeah, like once you get over Mach
fast, really fast, super really fast.
Yeah, Mach 20 is when things gets a little hairy. But yeah, like spacewalks are very dangerous, right? Like a grain of sand could kill an astronaut because those things are moving so fast. They just puncture the spacecraft, and if they get hit in the wrong spot, thank goodness we've never had a failure in a spacesuit or an astronaut really hurt, but it's a kind of an inevitable thing.
It's hard to consider, but just the odds of it are crazy.
Happen. Yeah. So we want to go protect. But getting the team aligned with what they're excited to build, and then making sure they have ownership in the company, meaning genuine ownership, like they're on the cap table, the capitalization table, so they have shares and equity in the company, and so they get excited, one, for what they're building because it's really cool, and then two, you have that money byproduct piece, further incentivizing people to like, oh man, how did that last conference go? What's our next opportunity?
Because then everybody's got a reason to be interested.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like building things are fun, but you want to make sure you can also make money doing it.
No, it makes absolute sense to me. So the last question that occurs to me is, how do you measure success? Because it seems like there's always going to be more for you to consider as an organization. Atomic-6. How do you? What is the top of the mountain?
I mean, the mountain keeps moving, right?
Well, it kind of does, and I imagine that if we're sitting here 10 years from today, the things we'd be talking about would be vastly different than we could even imagine right now.
Yeah, well, I think it's all relative. So, some people would say that Atomic-6 is already a success. You're a startup. We're 8 years old. We are self-sufficient, if you will. We have customers. So success at that level, sure. Crazy story. When we were doing our first fundraise, didn't have an office, didn't even have a customer, didn't have our first dollar. I had a billionaire offer me $30 million for the company.
Wow.
So I called my dad. I was sitting at the lunch table and I said, I appreciate the offer. I really want to make my first dollar and see where this goes. So I called my dad and he goes, "Are you crazy? You could retire today." And I was like, "Well, where's the fun in that?"
Right.
Right. Same billionaire called me a month later and he said, offer still on the table. And I said, still no. So, had I sold at that point, maybe somebody would have called that success. Today, I think success looks like, and we tell our investors and our customers, we want to build out the power grid for space and the protection grid for space, but the revenue is much more on the power side. We want to build out the power grid for space. So if you could invest in, Westinghouse, right? Or if you could invest in some of those early electrical grid companies, that's what we're looking at today.
Right.
Yeah, because there's very few competitors because the global demand for solar arrays hasn't really been that big in historic past. I'll give you an example. Why now? So 3 years ago, the global demand for solar array, if you exclude Starlink, which my COO built, shameless plug, was about 2 megawatts. So 2 million watts, I think, if I've got that right. Today, we have 6 times that in our current sales pipeline.
Wow.
6 times the global demand just in my little 12-person company.
Wow.
One, because I think we have a unique product and people are interested, but 2, like space is going to be a thing. I have the saying, every company is a space company. They just don't know it. Right? I mean, today you're using space technology today, whether internet, whatever, you're like every company is a space company at some level.
And I think that we learned in the after effects of the Mercury and the Apollo programs, right? That so many of the things that were designed to solve problems in space had practical applications to this day.
Yeah.
That still exist in ways that many people don't even know.
Oh, well, data centers and AI seem to be a hot topic.
I think I've heard that.
Yeah. So data centers are a big drain on the natural resources of Earth.
Absolutely. Electricity.
Power, water, electricity. Data centers are going to be in space. And
keep it a lot cooler.
Yeah. Well, again, it's hot and cold.
Or colder.
Actually, the hardest problem, well, I'll get to that in a second. We announced a few months ago, our very first space contract was actually for 6 missions, and we will be powering the very first data centers in lunar orbit. So they won't be on the surface. This company, Lone Star Data, has already been to the surface of the moon twice.
Wow.
On intuitive machines. Unfortunately, the lander tipped over.
I remember that.
Both attempts. Unfortunate. But we're going to put these in satellites, and so they'll be in orbit around the moon. And this isn't necessarily a data center for like AI compute. This is more of a backup redundancy. You think like, hey, I got a hard drive and I'm putting it in a lockbox because I don't want anybody
on the moon.
Or
in orbit.
In lunar orbit. Yeah. Ultimately, they actually do want to be on the moon. And then you've got, Eric Schmidt bought Relativity, Eric Schmidt's former CEO of Google. Data centers, right? So you want to put data centers in space. There's lots of space data centers, space startups. We're talking to almost all of them because the 2 big things they need are power. And
protection.
Well, protection-ish, but more cooling. So cooling is ironically the hardest thing you got to figure out. Solar arrays are the second biggest problem because the power that they need, you're looking at 4 or 5 times a single International Space Station on a certain data center. There's one star cloud that we're friends with. They want to put up a 16 square kilometer solar array. That's a lot of power.
That's a lot of power. That's a lot.
But you got to cool it off. So the big problem is actually getting that heat radiated out. So you got a Yeti cup right there.
Yep.
Why does your cup stay cold or hot?
Because it's double wall insulated with a vacuum in between.
It's in a vacuum. Space is a vacuum.
Right.
It's really tough to get the heat out. So deployable radiators are going to be a big thing we've got to figure out for the near future if orbital data centers are going to be a thing. So both power and actually getting that heat out.
It sounds to me that that's definitely a problem for some innovative thinking.
Well, we have deployable structures here.
That was the first thought that I had is if you can push them out and pull them back.
Well,
the heat doesn't go anywhere that way, but you still got to you got to capture and dissipate the heat.
You need surface area. Right. You need surface area to get that heat out. We're flying up with Auburn University. I think we've announced it. I can't remember. Doesn't matter.
I won't tell.
No, it's fine. We're flying up with Auburn University next year, and it's not the solar array. It's just the deployable mast with our deployer, and they want to push out a sensor out away from the spacecraft, right? So you could insert sensor for radiator or selfie stick, really expensive selfie stick, because you need to actually see a picture of a satellite. So there's lots of use cases for just deployable structures beyond solar panels and solar power.
It's going to be incredible to watch you grow.
I'm having fun, man.
It certainly seems like it, because you haven't stopped smiling since you got here.
Oh, we have I haven't even talked. We have a version of this. So the diameter you see here is 2 inches.
Okay.
We've built a 12-inch diameter, 33-foot tall deployable mast, which is just a demo for a flight model that will be 150 feet tall. The surface area will be 1.2 NBA basketball courts. It is a lunar vertical solar array tower.
Wow.
And the goal is to put this on the south pole of the moon in Q1, Q2 of 2027.
Really?
Powering the infrastructure needed for permanent residence on the moon.
It's a little hard to wrap my brain around that. and isn't there, is it an 8-minute communication lag between here and the moon?
I don't know.
I just know that there's
a lag.
So it always makes me wonder, knowing that even though it's minuscule when it's orbit, I know that the farther away you are, the longer it takes right now to get information back and forth. But as you said, it's not going to be necessarily for the data centers. The first generation won't be necessarily for instantaneous answers.
Well, this customer isn't even a data center customer. Starpath Robotics is a commercial customer of ours. And they plan on building mining services on the moon. So they're going to mine for liquid oxygen to do refueling for Starship, for SpaceX. There's another company called Interloon. Rob Meyerson's a friend of mine, former president of Blue Origin. He was employee number 5, built up Blue Origin. They're going to be mining for helium-3 on the moon, which will help the energy crisis we have here on Earth. If we can figure out, I don't know if it's fusion or fission, but one of those. But that will go towards cooling systems for quantum computers, because helium-3's, I think it's like $20,000 a kilogram right now.
A little pricey.
Real hard to get here on Earth. It's abundant on the surface of the moon. So their ideas,
frozen solid.
So their ideas, they're going to mine, but all those systems need to be autonomous, to your point,
because they got to have power.
And they have to have power, right? So we're going to stand up these large solar array towers, and then they will power beam, typically, to these structures that are moving around and doing all the mining.
That's absolutely incredible.
I had no idea this was going to be my life. It's kind of
I don't know how you could have imagined it, but it certainly sounds like it's a heck of a good time. Well, anybody that's listening that wants to learn more, where would they go to learn more?
I live on LinkedIn.
Okay.
It's a really great tool. Our company profile is just Atomic-6 on LinkedIn.
And we'll also share LinkedIn profile. We'll share the company's website. If they wanted to ask questions, where would they send those?
Yeah, we have an email address. It's info at atomic-6.com.
I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this conversation, Trevor. I've only got about 11 hours of more questions, so I'll just start saving those up and whittling them down for the next.
Did we cover half your page there?
I'm not even sure, but I don't feel like we missed anything. I have to tell you, this has been absolutely fascinating, and I'd love to have you back for another discussion. As your technology and what you and your team are building continue to grow and expand, we'd love to
well, we're here right in Marietta, but we have expansion plans. We plan to build the first gigafactory, if you will, for solar array production.
Right.
100,000 square feet will be 400 or 500 people working at this thing. So we're doing site selection right now to go build that, because we have this massive pipeline of interest for solar array power.
And I have lots of questions on that, but I want to be respectful of things that are still in motion.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, again, my guest today has been Trevor Smith. He's the founder and CEO of Atomic-6, a company creating advanced composite materials that make defense and aerospace equipment lighter, stronger, and more resilient. He's a 2-time founder with more than a decade of experience in technology and innovation. And Trevor has led Atomic-6 from concept to securing more than a dozen contracts with the DOT, the Air Force, the Space Force, with NASA, and with commercial companies, And he's really pushing the boundaries of what's possible in advanced materials with products that absolutely are going to be in orbit and one day on the moon.
Oh, yeah.
It has just been a pleasure having you here, Trevor. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I want to remind everybody again that today's episode is brought to you in part by our community partner program, the Business Radio X Main Street Warriors, defending capitalism, promoting small business, supporting our local community. For more information, please go to mainstreetwarriors.org. And a special note of thanks to our title sponsor for the Cherokee chapter of Main Street Warriors, Diesel David Inc. Please go check them out at dieseldavid.com. My name is Joshua Kornitsky. I am a professional implementer of the entrepreneurial operating system. My guest today, again, was Trevor Smith, founder and CEO of Atomic-6. Thank you for joining us here on Cherokee Business Radio, and we'll see you next time.